Well, I had a fun time trying to figure out how to introduce this week's guest. If I said goddess, I actually wouldn't be lying. She's stunning, but she's also known as the Keto Goddess. She's also an entrepreneur, a personal trainer, a ketogenic lifestyle coach, promoter, host of a warrior workout, and the list actually goes on. Genevieve Castonguay joins us today on Living Your Life with Leanne Lang. The podcast brought to you by Extension Marketing. For more information about the company, please go visit extensionmarketing.com. New year, new topics, keto, ketones, ketogenic. It is a hot buzzword. People are talking about it. Jen, it's so nice to have you here. Like, you get it, right? People hear that word and you're like, here we go.
It's crazy because about 3 years ago when I got into this, it wasn't even on people's radars. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, if I talk about it, people either sigh and go, keto, oh my gosh, that, or they ask me a million questions. So yeah. It's exciting.
You were waiting in the waiting room, in the lobby for a couple minutes, and I felt bad taking you away from Stephanie, who I know would have kept you there for an hour.
I love it though. It's become such a passion of mine that it's honestly second nature to have these kind of conversations. So it's no sweat off my back. It's great.
Well, and that's great because this was probably something years ago that you never anticipated that these words like, the keto diet or ketogenic lifestyle would have been front and center.
Had no idea about it, to be honest. And I don't know if we can get into that a little bit about how it came to be, but I was introduced to it from a great friend of mine who maybe listened to a podcast, kind of, actually, it's really funny, with a doctor and a researcher. And from there, it's just been a whirlwind adventure. And it's taken me on a career path that I can't even believe I'm on, but it's been really like a life's passion. It's great.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see. And I have seen over the years your work evolve because, I think the first time we were talking about it that I might have interviewed you is with one of your passion projects, which was I Am a Girl. And there was a reason. I think there have been reasons in your life and circumstances that have pretty much led you on a path you didn't know you were on until you've landed there. And I do find your story heartbreaking, to start, and inspiring in so many different ways. And so I love to do this, and you're going to have to go with me, bear with me. But I always find in understanding someone's story, you kind of understand where their life is going and why they're passionate about what it is that they do. And I think for you, like, it was a healthy, good childhood. You grew up here in Ottawa.
I did, yeah, born and raised.
But life changed drastically at the age of 10.
Yeah,
10.
Absolutely. So I think transparency is really important. And I think you're right. Everyone has a story, and why not share it? Because it resonates with people, right? So for me, my life did take a big, drastic change. I'm an only child, born and raised, beautiful mother and father. And then at the age of 10, my mother was swiftly taken from us from a brain tumor that metastasized very, very quickly. And so you don't expect to be thrust into that kind of environment right off the bat and not really having any sort of female figure to rely on. It was really challenging.
God, my daughter, Jamie's 10. I thought, you know what? She will be 11 a week after this podcast airs. And I think of this age and how much I am still so influential in the everyday. And in her going to bed, the fears of something happening to mom and dad. Like, those are the nightmares right now that I know she has, is like, what ifs and the understanding the concept of death and understanding the concept of forever. Like, you were at an age where it was becoming a reality, and yet it was your reality.
For sure. And I mean, it's very formative years. I actually look back now and I think that the first 8 to 10 years of someone's childhood is where you actually gain a lot of support and guidance and knowledge. So I'm very much my mother. So I am lucky in a sense. I mean, obviously not lucky that she passed away, but lucky in the sense that I had that time with her because I have so many traits and she taught me so much. So those fears are valid. And I don't think I really grasped the concept of death that much until a few years later. It definitely made me grow up a lot, become very independent. I did have a great support system around me, but it kind of shaped my whole trajectory. And as we go through it, you'll see that every step along the way kind of wanted me to empower other women because I needed that. I was lacking that.
Did you have conversations when the diagnosis was made that there was, when you talk about swiftly, like how swiftly was the...
So I do have faith in medical system. However, they were diagnosing it as migraines for quite some time. And my mother's a little bit stubborn. And so she was like, well, I guess it's just migraines. So it was over the course of an entire summer that it was just like that, until the point where it got to the point where they had to go to the hospital. And then they found out that it was a quite large brain tumor. And I think it was only a matter of weeks that she actually passed away. So she was going to have surgery on the Monday. She passed away on the Friday. So it was one of those things where you don't have time to prepare yourself, especially my father. I can't even imagine. He was only 34 at the time. She was 39, so she's a little older. But how do you prepare? You don't, right? So you just have to kind of figure out this new normal together. And we're really a team, and we still are to this day. So it's just figuring things out, you know.
You became his girl.
Oh, I always
can imagine,
was,
right? Like, I understand that. So you kind of experienced this at 10. I even in listening to your voice, like I can tell that there was family, that there was a support system. I mean, that would have been needed for your dad, but for you. And so who became that female role model? Who did you turn to?
Well, honestly, I think there was so many different ones. The matriarch of my family was my grandmother, and so she became a big part of it. I did have aunts and whatnot, but a cousin of mine, who's probably my best friend, and she was a little younger, but my cousins were like my foundation. So they were there just to be kind of my supportive, and we all grew up together.
It was like a sibling.
Yeah,
I know you were an
exactly.
only child, but at that point you almost had siblings.
They still are. Like I just got off the phone with one of them before coming in here. So I mean, they're very much like siblings to me.
Were you active? Were you health conscious? Like, were you a healthy, active, moving family?
Very much so. So all the pictures I have, like I don't have all of these solid memories, but I see pictures of me doing tap dance and singing and just being out there, and, you know, the fun things like tubing and stuff like that, and skiing all the time. So I was very active. In terms of health and nutrition, I don't think it was really at the forefront of people's minds in that generation. So I had the traditional classic foods that you'd have, your shepherd's pie and your craft dinner every once in a while and stuff. And I think they instilled healthy practices, but it wasn't at the forefront of your mind when you have a 10-year-old daughter, you know. So
and then growing up, like, were you health conscious? Were you a teenage girl looking at your body going, I like this, I don't like this? Like, what was your perception?
Crippling self-doubt and self-esteem issues, to the point where I actually went to the hospital, not admitted or anything, but I went in just because I didn't want to harm myself. I just felt such a lack of self-worth. And it really is a lot to do with the media portrayal, as you know, and even back then, you know, we didn't have cell phones.
You weren't
as
on
actively.
Instagram.
No,
like that,
no.
You know.
But it was just kind of, you know, am I worthy? Am I enough? Am I, you know, do I look the way I'm supposed to? Are boys going to like me? It was a lot of external validation issues. And I think a lot of that was because I didn't have that female role model to be like, it's okay, you're beautiful, you're strong. My dad did his best, but there's a balance between male and female, and sometimes you need that female presence, right? So it took me a lot of hard years to figure things out. I was still active. I still loved myself, but it really, honestly, has been a culmination of the last 31 years of my life to get to where I am now, to actually feel secure in who I am.
I mean, that takes a lot. And to be brave enough to say I need help, or something's not quite right. Like when you're saying I need to talk to someone, or I need to go to a doctor.
Yes. Yeah. And that was the thing too, actually, I didn't mention that. And I, again, full transparency, don't mind. I do believe that psychologists and psychiatrists have a place. And it took me a lot of years to accept that I needed to talk about my mother's death to somebody not in my family. And so even doing, you know, a year of that really opened up the floodgates in a good way of my positive outlook on life. And like, you know, I actually started doing talks at Carleton University and stuff, just talking about cultivating a healthy mindset first. Before I even got into fitness and nutrition, it was all about mindset, and it still is to this day in my view. And that's why, you know, living your life is all about, you know, healthy mindset, healthy body, all that kind of stuff, right? So that really helped to shape who I am now, I think.
Don't you love therapy?
I do.
I'm at the point now, sometimes I just feel like these podcasts could be a therapy session. You know, you listen to people, and sometimes for me, it's like I can hear it in their voice, you know, when something's emotional, or when something's uplifting, or when they're proud. Like, you know, it's so much in just listening to people or saying things out loud. Sometimes in me, my therapy is just if if it's spoken out loud, like if I have said it out loud and it's more real.
You put a voice to it, because sometimes we're so stuck in our heads. The second we say it out loud, it either sounds ridiculous and we can move forward, or we actually come to find the solution ourselves. It's really funny. A lot of people don't do that. They stay so closed into themselves. And the more we share our story, the more we can help us and others.
You heal yourself and heal others at the same time. Where was school? What were you doing? Like, you know, you're moving ahead. Okay. You know, like, where are you going? Yeah.
So, again, another kind of stumble. I don't like to call it a stumble. I have zero regrets in life. Honestly, zero. I did a lot of self-sabotage patterns in school. I hate tooting my own horn sort of thing. I am an intelligent person, and my teachers saw that in me. And so they let me skip school a lot because I'd get my projects in, I'd get good grades, and I didn't have even the structure in school. Albeit I did have one teacher who like put the hammer down because I was in singing, and he's like, you can't do the singing concerts if you don't come. And that was the structure I needed. But it actually started to create kind of a pattern of, I just want to be an independent learner. I want to go home and do my own thing. Traditional school is not right for me. And I learned later in life that that's okay. A lot of people don't learn that way, but at the time it was really hard, right? And your brain's not fully developed, so you think it's the end of the world. So I did still have these patterns because I wasn't dealing with my issues. And that actually went up through my high school. And it just kind of opened my eyes now in retrospect to things that I wish I had known then, but I couldn't have known, right? So
you've got to go through it.
You have to.
Because now, I mean, I think you're for you, there's such a thirst for knowledge because of what you've done and the research that you've done and the courses, like that you know that you have a thirst for knowledge. It just wasn't applied.
Life experience is the best knowledge you can get, to be honest. And even life experience, having those challenges and doing things that aren't correct in societal views will really change your life at the end of the day, you know? So
changing your life usually when someone gets a diagnosis. I mean, you had an early death in the family, but I was reading your bio, and then for you, you're a cancer survivor. When?
Yeah.
I was like reading your bio and like going through things, and I'm like, what? And then I'm like, gosh, you think you know people? Like I've seen you so many years at events and speaking, and I'm like, you have no idea the lives of people.
So yeah, that was interesting. So I got into kind of the fitness world, dabbled in it. I was doing CrossFit, just to give you perspective. I kind of moved around, mostly in Ottawa. I lived in Petawawa beforehand for a little bit, just followed a boy. That happens, right? And so the fitness was great. And I was like, I'm so healthy. I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden, my mid-20s, I had a little bump on my thyroid, and then it grew and it metastasized, and it was a cyst. And for 2 years, they did biopsies and was inconclusive. And I just know, based on my prior knowledge with healthcare and professionals, not that I doubt them, but they're human and there's errors. So I persisted, and I said, like, I just felt something was different, right? So I was like, please continue doing biopsies. And then one day I did it, went in for a routine check, and they're like, as matter of fact, least bedside manner as possible, like looking at his paper, stage 2 papillary thyroid cancer. And I hear the C word, and based on what happened with my history, I kind of blanked out for the rest of the time. No idea what was going to happen. And I think I was only 25 at the time, I think. And so I left, and I think I texted my then boyfriend because I didn't know how to call him and tell him. He's like, you can't text someone that. And subsequently, I ended up having a full thyroidectomy. So it was covering my full thyroid, which is like a butterfly-shaped gland right in the center of your throat. There was a possibility of losing my voice. So I'm a huge singer. So we did this big karaoke night.
Before your surgery?
Before my surgery, like a week before. And it went really well. I barely have any sort of scar at all.
I have a girlfriend who had it done as a teenager, and hers is quite predominant. Like it was for a good decade. Yeah. And once I knew your story, they did a fantastic job.
Yeah. Like, kudos to Dr. Michael Odell. He's the best surgeon in Ottawa. I gotta say,
you have very little. You could never tell unless you knew.
Thank you. But So I mean, that was kind of like a big. I'd never once looked at it in a negative view. I mean, of course you hear it and people are like, it's the best cancer you can have. I'm like, the best cancer is no cancer, you know? But that being said, I was like, okay, I'll get through this. I've got through so much in my life. I'll be fine. And then, you know, I got it removed. I did this radioactive iodine thing where you drink radioactive fluid and then you're segregated for a week and you feel kind of crazy. But after doing that, being diagnosed cancer free, at the end of the day, it actually, that really changed my perspective on life. I was just kind of coasting a bit. I was doing sales jobs, which I loved. I was in radio actually. And that's when I started the I Am That Girl nonprofit chapter, which is funny that you and we did an interview on beforehand. And because I was like, you know what? There's so many men and women out there that don't have that support structure. And then when they go through a hardship like this, who do they turn to? Or maybe it's a young woman who hasn't gone through something yet, but we want to empower them. And so that's when I was literally sitting there isolated in my room. I was writing an ebook for the Senate of Canada about bringing more women to the table because I had nothing else to do. I know that sounds crazy.
I had nothing else to do, so I wrote an ebook for the Senate of Canada. Yeah. I'm sorry. Like the things people say.
I know. I'm sorry. I literally said that, and that sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, it does. Okay. So as an author, also all right.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. Not matter of fact, I got a contract, and it was really fun to do. I love writing, and I couldn't move much, right?
Right.
So anyways, I was writing.
You being in isolation was perfect for you to write this book for the Senate of Canada.
And then you're alone in your thoughts, right? And then that makes you think, like, what am I actually doing with my life? What if I had been chronically ill, or what if I had passed away? And then I accomplish what I wanted to do? And the answer was no. So that's when I really made a real big shift in my life.
So you start this campaign, the I Am a Girl.
Yeah.
Is that still ongoing? Like, I mean, that was a big chapter. There was a big movement around that for a while.
Yeah.
If I remember.
So it's an international nonprofit that was actually founded by this woman named Alexis Jones out of LA. She was on Survivor years ago or something. And so there wasn't any local chapters in Ottawa. So I didn't really start the nonprofit. But I brought it here. Yeah. And it was really big and it was good. And I've stepped away from it personally just for other endeavors, but I brought it to the city and I've introduced it. It's more for younger women. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to give them a platform, like literally in their teens, right? But what's funny is we would have like bi-weekly meetings, and the women that would come out were anywhere from 13 to like 65. And we would have these like sessions where you're crying and you're just like being so raw and vulnerable. And it was really nice. It was good. Yeah.
It was, can I say like therapeutic a bit?
Cathartic. Yeah. It was great. Yeah.
You have this chapter, you have this ongoing, You're, I think at this point, almost going to be leaving these jobs that you're doing, because where did you then find that the health and wellness sector was where you were going?
Yeah, we're getting there. Everyone who's like, where's the keto stuff? So like I said, I was into fitness and I decided I was going to challenge my body. And I really knew that if I was capable of beating cancer, I can do anything. And so I decided to take on doing a fitness competition. And so a great friend of mine trained me, and I didn't do it in a keto way, but I did it just in like a healthy eating, consistent workouts, and I did 2 back-to-back bikini fitness shows just to show myself. Like, it wasn't for aesthetics. It was just like, I can still do this and be empowered and strong and represent the female body in a great way.
Did you like the training? Did you like the process?
I loved the training. I didn't love the diet. And at the end of the day, this is where the keto comes into play. It did mess up my metabolism, because towards the end of the competitions, if anyone's done it, they go through something called peak week, which I would call hell week, because you literally deprive your body of a lot. And I know some people don't do it that way, but that's the way we did it. And you shrink wrap your body a little bit, right? So I didn't take any supplements like that were negative. It was just like a lot of water, and then you cut all your water. So it was kind of crazy. And so coming out of that, I was like, ooh, fitness is not everything. And that is when, if you don't mind me going into the keto thing.
No, this is perfect.
Okay, good. Nice segue. So that is when I met with my friend who I'm sure a lot of people know who JTF2. It's like the Navy SEALs of Canada. They're like, you know, the door kickers of Canada that protect us and all that. So he's a good friend of mine for years, really smart guy. And we sat down for lunch one day and he took out his own oil and got a plain salad and started like no protein, nothing. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're this big guy, you know? And he said, Jen, I know you're a science brain because I am. I like that kind of stuff. He's like, I have a podcast for you to listen to. Now, bear with it. It's 3 hours long. And I was like, oof. Okay. But then he's
longer
like,
than the Titanic.
Yeah. So true. But it's by Tim Ferriss, who's like a thought leader of Generation Tools of Titans, right? Mm-hmm. And he was interviewing this man named Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, who's a leading ketone researcher. And this is back when like ketones were just kind of new and whatever. And so it was how to use ketones that you produce in your body or an exogenous form, which is outside of your body, to fuel your brain and your body more effectively and to starve cancer. And so when I heard ketones to starve cancer, I was immediately piqued my curiosity. So I was like, I'll listen to it with an open mind. I did. And then it was like 40 or 50 hours more of podcasts. And
so you listened to the first 3 hours.
The first 3 hours.
And
hooked.
And then you go on to listen to 40 to 50 additional hours of material.
I swear within like 3 days. Like it was like nonstop. Because like PubMed articles are great, but like listening to the people talk about it is a little bit, you absorb it better. And then that's when it literally was like, I think it was June of like 3.5 years ago is when I was like, you know what? I won't tell anyone about it yet, but I'm going to do this. And I'm going to go full out and I'm going to try it and see what I like.
Okay. I have to ask you, okay, what was it in the first 3 hours that was the Kickstarter for you to go on and listen to another 50?
Great question. So it was really about the first catalyst, obviously, was just the title, like the starving cancer cells, because cancer cannot thrive in the lack of glucose, which is basically the molecule that you get for energy coming from carbohydrate sources. So if it's depleted out of your body, if the glycogen is depleted, your body has to switch energy sources to burning down your own stored body fat in your liver called ketones. And they're 70% more efficient to fuel your body and your brain than glucose is. And it crosses that blood-brain barrier. So like you're literally signaling better in your brain to the rest of your body, your gut, everything. And I was listening to the science behind it, but the guy was so practical too. The researcher, like the scientist, was also a bodybuilder, and he did a 7-day fast with just water. So he didn't eat anything. He just did water. And then he lifted 500 pounds for 10 reps to show that his muscles stayed, you know, the integrity was good. His strength was still there. His body has never been in better shape, but also his mind is super peak. And so what got me is like, oh, wow, like it's not just about the aesthetics and all that. It's internal health, and it's also like brain fuel. And they were talking about Alzheimer's and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not making medical claims. This is literally, you can listen to the podcast. But it hooked me so much about the internal health because that is such a big part of my life now. And it was then at the time.
So you decide to not tell anybody about this new venture you're on, but to apply it to yourself.
Yeah, for a little bit. Now, I'm out there, obviously. So it didn't take me long to start talking about it, but mostly just to friends first and clients. Like I have a business, Goddess Gains, which was just fitness training at the time. But as I started going through my keto journey, I had to start sharing the recipes and stuff, just literally intrinsically, like it came out of me.
Okay. What did you start to do first? Like your transition after listening to your 50 hours, what did you start to do differently right off the bat?
So all of those complex carbohydrates that I thought were the best things for me, which are like starches, like potatoes and sweet potatoes, rice, whole grains, all that stuff, even fruit, I just slowly brought them out of my lifestyle. I did it gradually, and then I increased my healthy fat sources. So more animal fats, oils, coconut oil, which I hadn't really used a whole lot of before. Nuts, avocado became my best friend, still is to this day. And so I just started to make that switch because your body if you're fighting for energy sources, it's almost more negative. That's where the problems come up. But if you do make a switch, eventually you'll become fat adapted. So I did it super gradually. And then I started playing with food. And I love to cook now. And I think it forces you to try new things, and not be so complacent in the basics. Like I was so used to steamed broccoli and ground beef and stuff with the fitness world. Whereas now it's like, oh, I can use cheeses and I can use the cuts of meat that have a ton of fat on it, and I'm allowed to eat this, and it's good for me. And it's like, it changes your whole perspective on eating. It was interesting.
What did you have the hardest to give up? Is there something that you still miss or that you crave or that you're not eating?
Yeah, I really do believe in moderation. So there are times, and because I call this a lifestyle versus a diet, I really think that people have to find what their healthy balance is at the end of the day. So there are times like over the holidays where I actually deviated from keto. I ate the food with my family, but I did it consciously. And then I went back in. Yeah, it took me a few days. I felt kind of like garbage. I do miss some things sometimes, but what I really found, like ice cream, let's say, but I found that there's actually alternatives that you can make. And now, because keto is so it's so out there, there's so many products that cater to this lifestyle that are store made that you can actually buy.
Like even in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I would say especially in the last year, I find that you could go to any of these stores, and I was doing stuff with Natural Food Pantry. Like they're tailored to knowing that there's a big part of the demographic that's eating this way. Okay, so can you explain, because I'm listening and I understand.
Yeah.
What exactly, for someone who's heard these words, has heard ketogenic, has heard the keto diet, like what exactly, if you had to define it?
Okay.
Can you define it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to do it because, again, I don't want to come off as an expert. Anyone can learn this. So on a high level, basically it's high fat, low carb, moderate protein. That is the basis of it. So the whole point of this is to switch your energy source from using glucose, which comes from sugars and carbohydrates, to using fat for energy, either the stored body fat in your body or the fats that you consume. So there's only ever two energy sources. You can choose one or the other, but in order to get to that fat, you have to get your carbs down low enough to do that. Typically, that's about 20 up to 50 grams net carbs. This might sound like a little crazy. So net carbs just means you look at the total carb count, you subtract the amount of fiber from that count, and you subtract if there's any sugar alcohols. Now, sugar alcohols are like natural sugars like stevia and erythritol that don't spike your insulin. You can remove that from the total count, and then you can take a look at your daily. I know this sounds a little out there. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people talk about doing the keto diet to be able to get into ketosis.
Right.
What is ketosis?
Yeah, exactly. So ketosis is the process of breaking down fats in your liver to create ketone molecules. And there's 3 different types of ketone molecules. One is the urine ketone, one is breath, and the one that matters the most is called beta hydroxybutyrate, or BHB. Let's just call it BHB because it's easier. That's the one you want. It's that blood ketone that'll cross the blood-brain barrier to fuel your body more effectively.
Okay, crosses the blood-brain barrier. No, it's okay. I'll catch you on it. I'll catch you on it. What are you referring to when you say the blood-brain barrier?
Yeah, so a lot of things can't be passed through to our brain with the blood transmission, like through our body, but ketones do that. They bypass, they can go directly into your brain as an energy source. So they can light up your brain. Like if you've ever experienced kind of brain fog at 3 p.m. and you need coffee, this can actually be like a natural way of lifting brain fog and having massive amounts of clarity, energy, focus. My family has a history of ADD, and I'm not self-diagnosing myself, but I used to literally only go 30, 45 minutes at a time concentrating. Now in the keto lifestyle, for me, I can do 3-4 hours without stop on a specific task. And I do attribute that to my lifestyle a lot. So that's what it means.
Are you always in ketosis at this point?
No, I'm not. So I do... and here's the thing that I want people to understand is that You go in and out of ketosis at many times during your life. You probably at some point, even not doing the lifestyle, let's say you finished eating at 7 p.m. one night, you slept in the next day on a Sunday and you woke up at 1 p.m. and then you didn't eat until 1 or 2. Well, guess what? Your body only takes 8 to 12 hours to break down the food in your system. And then what happens is it actually goes to your stored body fat for you to consume, and it creates ketones. So you've definitely been in ketosis at some point in your life. Babies are born in ketosis, and then once we start feeding them other whole foods, like breast milk is 60% fat. We don't realize those things. So I'm not always in ketosis. There may be a day I eat too much protein or some incidental carbs, like carbs I didn't realize were coming from maybe a sauce I had at a restaurant or something. But because I'm fat adapted, meaning that my body will now choose ketones first because I've been doing it for a while, it'll easily go back into ketosis after a day.
A lot of people say that they have tried this and have done it for a period of time, but then don't stick with it. Yeah. Why is that? This podcast is brought to you by Extension Marketing. They are a new breed of marketing agency that acts as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective marketing strategies that will grow your business. I can speak to this personally, as I've been using the Extension Marketing team to help me launch and grow my business. Founder Pat Whalen has been a lifesaver for me, a genuine coach, guiding me along the way into uncharted territory. Tell them you're a friend of the show and receive a free 1-hour consultation. Check them out at extensionmarketing.com.
I just kind of actually touched on something called fat adaptation, and that's a really important process. Usually, like I said, your body is fueled by glucose, right? So if you deplete glucose, your body will have flu-like symptoms. And that's just because your body doesn't know where it's going to get its energy. And that usually happens in the first couple of weeks. And that's when people fall off because they go, well, I feel like garbage. Why would I continue this? Stick with it, friends, because once you break through that little bit of a flu-like symptom and you start to getting those healthy fats in there, you're going to actually come through the other end and be more fat adapted to use ketones as your energy source. So people, it's any change in your lifestyle is difficult, and there's always going to be an adjustment period. Some people find there's some gut issues or going to the bathroom too much and stuff, but remember, we've taken so long to get where we are that it's going to take a little bit of time to change where we want to go. So I would say just keep your water intake up, keep your electrolytes up, and just focus on what the goal is, and that's to get to fat adaptation.
Is it about when you have your clients, right? So now this is something that you're doing all the time and are teaching classes. I've heard you speak about it. Are people looking at this for the brain clarity or to get out of that fog? Are they looking at it for weight loss? Yeah. What's the reason people usually choose to go this route?
So, again, being super transparent, most people hear about it because of the fat loss implications. I like to say fat loss versus weight loss because what's so great about this lifestyle is that you actually can preserve your lean muscle mass. Ketones do that inherently. So you're not burning through your muscle, you burn real fat, like visceral fat. That's the bad stuff for you. So a lot of people start with those intentions, and then they start to see the other benefits afterwards. So, you know, I don't go and promote it just as a fat loss diet because I really think Atkins was a diet before, right? This is a lifestyle, and it's maybe not right for every single person. But yeah, sorry.
Okay, who would it not be right for? Are there, like, you know, you have people listening, but this might not be.
I think you have to really listen to your body. If you have some metabolic conditions, like if you have like a really bad hormonal imbalances, you may want to work with either someone like myself or a naturopathic doctor to see if maybe a little bit higher carb intake or doing carb up days are good for you. You have to listen to your body at the end of the day. There's always going to be standard guidelines for any lifestyle, but you have to adapt it for your body. That being said, I've had everybody from even type 1 diabetics that have issues producing insulin, which can create more ketones in an acidic level. But as long as they monitor it, as closely as their blood glucose, they can still do this lifestyle and see benefits. Like cutting carbohydrates is not a bad thing. Our body, think about our cavemen even, right? So they would hunt and they would eat a big cut of meat, and then they go 2 weeks not eating. They'd have just water because they would be out there hunting again and maybe their family would be eating. So they literally use their own stored body fat. That's the way, and I know I'm talking thousands of years ago, but we're made to do that. So it is potentially good for anybody, but you have to really focus on your own health.
Can you do it half-assed? Okay, I'm gonna ask you this because, like, and we were talking about full, being authentic, or transparency. I tried it.
Yeah,
I did it a year and a half, maybe more than that, a little bit more than that. And I was doing the Prove It packs. I didn't do the bulletproof coffee. I could not physically down that drink. Oh my God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But being raised in the 80s, I was raised on the non-fat. Like, my mom was very health conscious and everything was coming out. Like, we took out the butter, we went to margarine, everything was non-fat, everything in the house, right? And so that was my mindset. And doing... And maybe over the years and all the interviews that I'd done, I started to realize, okay, the amount of sugars that was in all of the non-fat stuff was way more detrimental than just having the true fat. So over the course of time, I've gone back to full butter, full fat sour cream.
Awesome.
I'll have cream in my coffee and not feel guilty about it. So and I had more avocados and I had more coconut. Like, I've done these things. So I have implemented more fat.
Yes.
A lot more fat, and watch that I don't have the sugar content. But I still have the fruits and the vegetables. We don't have much pasta or rice or that stuff in the house, but I was, in trying to do it, I still liked my fruits and my vegetables, and those had too many sugars, right? Like, so I felt like I was battling my inner thoughts.
Absolutely.
And then going to have the bacon and the cheese. Like, I was like scratching my head going, what are you doing? Right? Like, it's going against so many things that you have been taught to not have.
And so that's a good point. So first of all, I just want to bring up the vegetable point. I eat a plethora of vegetables. So, and again.
Do you eat your peppers and your...
I do.
Like, okay.
Yeah, so I eat them in moderation. I do cut out all starches, all grains, all like the breads and the pastas and stuff like that. There are healthy alternatives, but I do keep a lot of vegetables, and it's really important. And I've actually reintroduced a little bit of fruit, but in moderation, like seasonal berries and things like that. But anyways, going to your point, can you do this kind of...
Right.
So I'd say here's the main thing at the end of the day is I know that we love those traditional things. So I'm not going to get too nitty gritty into the science behind it, but something that I just wanted to mention is that this man named Ansel Keys in the 1950s is the one who told us that saturated fats were bad. And he was actually paid off, we found out, by the sugar companies and everything to promote low fat because it made more money for them. But now we've come to see that that's not the case. But what you're trying to say is, can I still have some of these products? I'd say the answer is yes and no. Okay, so you're doing the right thing. The first step for anybody is cutting those processed sugars. For anybody, I mean, think about what it's doing to your body. They're not meant to be as a part of our body. And going to full fat products is going to be so great. So even getting rid of your 2% milk and going for the 35% cream is going to be really great because it's less processed, less sugars. It's going to do really good for your body. I just say a slower transition. If you want to be more low carb, higher fat, that's great. You may not get into a state of ketosis. That's okay. You don't have to always be in this state. It's about being conscious with any sort of lifestyle. If keto's not for you, you want to just eat clean and eat whole foods, then go for it, But the only reason I really strive to be in this state most of the time is that I don't want my body to be always fighting for a different energy source. So if I have a day where I eat bread, which I don't do anymore, but if I had a day where I eat bread, well, I'll kick myself out of ketosis, but it'll also take me a day or two to get back to feeling really great. So why do that to myself? Maybe I can make a keto bread that doesn't take long, or I can go to a store like Natural Food Pantry that they actually sell keto breads now. So it's finding those alternatives to things we love and just trying to consciously do that. And here's the best part, Leanne, is that once you do this for a few weeks, those cravings for even the easy things like bread actually start to go away completely.
So for some of us, like I don't have bread. Like
Yeah, okay.
I don't have bread. I don't have, but I like my peppers and I like my strawberries and my black, and my mangoes and those, as I was realizing, anything that was sweet and in the fruit are high in sugar, right? So I was battling a healthy balance of fruits, vegetables, protein. And so how do you battle? Like you're battling me. I'm not battling. I'm not battling. It's the wrong word to use. We are thrust so many options, so much information. Yeah. How can one individual say, no, this is okay. I'm going to choose this over this way?
Agreed. Yeah. Okay. So I totally get that. So here's where I do with my clients.
Yes.
I create them a macronutrient profile, which I know it's not the easiest thing for just the average person to do. However, if you want to start with a basis, there's different websites you can go to. It's like ruled.me/keto calculator. You can put in your height, weight, age, goals, and you can find out how many calories are good based on your goals and your weight, and also the percentages of how much fat, carbohydrates and protein you can have. And then you could do something that a little bit is more like if it fits your macros. Just to get started.
But you're talking a language, like some people right now are going
or like what is this?
Like you've just said macros and stuff, and
I
like
get it.
There's somebody at home that's just like, I'm just trying to lace up my running shoes and go walk a kilometer.
I get. I'm so glad you're pulling me back in.
But like but you're like talking macros and stuff, and I'm like. Okay. The general population is you've lost them.
So okay, I like it. No. Yeah. It's actually really, really good that you say that. So here, okay, so let's just scrap the word macros altogether. Okay. Just knowing that you need high fat and you need low carbohydrates. If you love fruit, just start to wean down a little bit and make it more as your treat. So if you do love fruit, you want to keep it in your lifestyle.
Most people are going, the fruit is the good stuff, and then I can have my treat. They're not looking at the fruit as being their treat.
But you can make things called like fat bombs and stuff that can be from like dark chocolate, which can also be a treat.
Okay.
But berries and stuff, they're not bad. They're just high in natural sugars. And our whole point is to deplete as much sugar as you can. So I totally get where you're coming from.
People are battling that. But you said fruits are good, they're so torn and understanding. Well, you said I could have fruit and vegetables, but these fruits aren't good and these vegetables aren't going to do the trick. Like it's really needing to be as informed as possible. And so do you have people that come to you and think that they've been doing everything the right way?
Of course.
And then you kind of go through it and be like, this is why it's not working.
Absolutely. So there's so many pitfalls with any lifestyle, right? Not just keto. And I don't want people to overcomplicate it. And you don't have to have a ketogenic lifestyle coach like myself to do that. But don't get misinformation. I would say those forums that are there for support, take everything with a grain of salt, but then do what's right for your body at the end of the day. So the best thing I would say for fruit and vegetables is to Google really easily low glycemic fruits and vegetables. Okay, so that just means it's low on the sugar content. And then from there, you can create your own optimal list. And if you really love your mango and your pineapple at the end of the day and you really want it, then try to think about it more as a treat that you have more less frequently. And then you know what, berries, blueberries, those things you can have a quarter cup in your yogurt or whatever and still enjoy it. So I would say the best tip of advice for the newbie is just Google low glycemic fruits and vegetables and stick to the top ones and you'll be fine. You don't have to track everything.
Okay, then you're getting your cuts of meat.
Yes.
Usually you're taking the fat off.
Yes.
Right? Usually you go to the butcher and you're trying to find the one that has the least white, there.
Marbling, yeah.
Least white. You're actually now looking for as much marbling.
Yeah, because animal fats are a great source of natural fats. And because you're now cutting your carbs so low, you want to increase those fats. Going for the bone-in, skin-on options and the marbling on the cuts of steak. I know, again, it's all your mindset, right? So remember at the beginning we talked about healthy mindset and all that. You're going to have to make a really big shift to get through it, but you'll notice when you start eating these foods that it really will support your body. There are also vegetarians that do keto, and that's fine. They can find healthy sources of fat in, like I said, the coconuts and the nuts and the avocados. There's a lot of other sources. But if you are eating meat, go for the fattier cuts. They're not bad for you. And if you do still like your lean meats, like let's say you can't do it, just cook it in more oils. So if you have like a chicken breast, well, you can cook it in more butter. You could add some cheese to it, some full fat cheeses, and there's your fat content at the end of the day.
Like for some people, they're going, this is awesome.
Right?
I get to cook with butter and I'm going to add some cheese. And then on top of that, why don't we just add a drink filled with fat? Because that's what you're going to, wait, we're not done yet, everyone. Yeah. We're going to then add a drink that's going to have like 13 grams of fat. Yes. So this is where too the industry has exploded, because there are products like you have the Bulletproofs, you have the Prove It. And this is like a way to be like, hey, let's fatten a glass.
So it's about biohacking your body. That's a new term coined by actually Dave Asprey, who's the founder of Bulletproof. And Bulletproof's actually become synonymous. It's almost like Kleenex in the keto world, because Bulletproof is actually a brand name, but we call it Bulletproof Coffee. And what it means is you're infusing healthy fats into a hot beverage, either a tea or a coffee, so that you can boost your fat level at the beginning of the day. And you can practice something called intermittent fasting, which means that you're only consuming healthy fats or maybe nothing at all. And you're starting your eating patterns a little bit later, because that'll help your body to use your stored body fat first. So if you have a fat loss goal, it helps you to use that fat first. And it's actually a really safe and normal practice. I know it's a whole other topic we could probably get into
the intermittent fasting.
I think it might be another day topic. But it's been something that I know can help people break plateaus and also stop cravings, because your hunger hormone, there's a couple of them, they actually start to reduce if you practice intermittent fasting a few times a week. And so the Bulletproofs or Prove It has this product called Keto Cream that I use every day. It's basically like a package that you put in your coffee on the go, so that you don't have to carry around a magic bullet blender with you, because that's hard to do.
So I use that. I would use that on the morning show. Like I would make my tea and I would use the Prove It creams in there.
Yeah.
To do it.
I did it today. It was great.
And then some people would go by my desk and I would have a water bottle filled with the Prove It.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it looked like it did not look appealing.
Right.
And I would really have to down it down. But that was, I found, the only way I was going to get in all of the
fats and things
to
like
be able
that.
to do it. And I'm gonna say, like, I leaned up, like I could definitely tell the difference, and I was peeing on a stick, and trying to see, and I found that I could get into it for about an hour and a bit a day.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. And then I would be out. But I wasn't disciplined.
Well, and one thing just for listeners that are doing this, so those keto sticks that people pee on, they actually are only good at the onset, because the ketones that your body doesn't use, you'll excrete through your urine. As you become more fat adapted, it won't even show up on the keto sticks, but you could be in full-blown ketosis. So anyone who is really looking to track, you don't have to do this, but you can get a blood glucose reader with ketone strips, test your blood. Okay, so I'm saying the average person will never have to do this. Yes. Because I'm a keto coach, I like to show people how to do it. And you can actually track your blood ketone levels, which is the only thing that should really matter at that point. So you may have been in ketosis, but not seeing it on those strips.
Okay, I'll be honest with you, Jen. Yeah. I think I was looking for that, like, brain... Like, maybe I think I was so tired, right? Like I was, and it was right before I got the shingles, which was the catalyst for me leaving the show. Right. I was exhausted. So I was desperate to be out of that brain fog. Yeah. And I just think my lifestyle, I was just never going to get that brain clarity. But that's what I was on it. Like, I loved the fat loss. Yes. But I was in search. Like, I was like on a desperate search for that brain clarity. Yeah. And so that's what I was like. That for me was like the golden nugget.
And that's good. I mean, some people, they don't even realize that can achieve that. And maybe you didn't hit it, hey, maybe down the line we can try it again and do it together as an experiment.
I'm definitely, it piques my interest. Yeah. It definitely does. And I think for a lot of people, it piques their interest. It's the commitment. Yep. And do you find now, I mean, we're into that new year. Everyone's into these, gotta love them, but they're into these resolutions and these new kind of lifestyle attitudes. How much of this coaching are you going to be doing, and how much can you honestly say this % will stick with it?
I think it's, I can't really estimate a percentage because I think people have to have their own experience and develop their own whys. So if you look at something and someone says, I need to lose weight, what are you actually saying, right? So it's like, I want to feel better in my own skin. I want these clothes to fit a little, I want to get back to before I was a mom. I want to do all that kind of stuff. And so actually determining what your why is will be the biggest motivator for you, because if you're having a day where you're really off and you want to eat a whole bunch of carbs, think about that why, and that's going to be the reason. So it's about the resolve. I think accountability and support has a big role, and that's why I am a keto coach. I am here so that I can be a bouncing board or a peer person for somebody.
So what calls, so, you know, as a keto coach, like what calls are you getting? Or is it like, I need recipes? Or how much is recipe development? How much is creating that meal plan? How much is talking someone off the ledge when they want to have that piece of bread? Like, what goes into it?
Well, for me personally, everyone does this a little bit differently, but what I like to do is I do customized meal plans for each of my clients. So I have a bank of about 450 recipes I've put together over the last couple of years.
How hard was that?
It was a big process. I had to create a system. I have all of the macronutrients that we're talking about, like the calories, everything in an Excel spreadsheet so I can easily input and change things. Now, some people are like, I have no nuts in my house, or I can't do dairy. So that's where it's important to have somebody to be like, here are recipes that will work for your entire family and also meet your dietary limitation or restrictions. And so I put it all together. I put every single day mapped out. I allow them a little wiggle room. Like, here's your healthy snack choices. Pick between them. This is what you can do, because there has to be some sort of wiggle room. And then I ask them what they're able to do. And like, we also incorporate fitness in there, like, you know, quick little HIIT, high intensity interval training, things like that they can do at home or at the gym. But they also get, 15-minute phone calls with me every week as a check-in, but they can text me or message me anytime. It's just we have, set structured guidelines plus a private Facebook group with everyone so they can bounce ideas off each other.
When you look at that Facebook group, what are they bouncing? What are the chats like?
A lot of them are recipes, but then it's like, okay, I'm having a potluck and I have no idea, what I need to do. Like, and somebody will say, hey, this is a great one I just tried last week. Let's do this. Or there'll be questions like, I'm hitting a plateau. And I love that they feel comfortable going between themselves because that means I actually have one woman who has stepped up as almost a coach herself. She has become so knowledgeable. She's even traveled with me to the States to learn about ketones because for her, it's changed her life. She's 48, a mom of 3, and she looks the best, feels the best ever. So she won't stop talking about it. So it's cool to see that you empower other people to also share the conversation and like give them the tools.
What are some of the, like you talked about this client, 48, 3 kids, feeling best. Like, what are some of the success stories of people who've come in with the worst eating habits or lifestyle and you've seen shift?
My favorite one is, I won't name names, but it was a lady who came to me and she had been going through fertility treatments for a while. And she was actually in her early 40s and it was 7 years of trying. And they said, you need to lose weight. Otherwise this treatment won't work. And we worked together. We did some fitness too, but we kind of overhauled her lifestyle, and she has a beautiful baby daughter now, and we're like best friends. And it just goes to show that nutrition, not just fitness, can play such a huge role in changing what they're telling you you're predestined. Your epigenetics can be changed. So that's one like very, very, I know, out there.
But there's people who are struggling.
And there's men too. Like, I work a lot with women, but there's men that I'm working with currently that are like, I've never, there's one who's going to do a triathlon. He's like, I never even thought I could run, and it's like, you're reaching new standards and new heights for your own self. And most people, I'd say, are older than I am. Like, I'm 31, almost 32, and most of them are 35 plus with kids. And it's because they realize now, they're like, I need a shift, and how am I going to do it? I don't even know where to start. Jen, help, Yeah. And that's where we're at.
You spoke about this client of yours who is going through fertility issues and, to be able to lose the weight and to be able to follow through. And thankfully, you've just announced this, so I'm okay to say it, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Because you're pregnant with your first child.
I am. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's exciting, it's overwhelming, and, you're going in for those prenatal visits, and it's like, what are you doing for your diet? Like, what are you taking? what is your perspective now with you and your lifestyle and you now carrying a child?
So what I love is that I've armed myself with so much knowledge and information that I'm not scared about continuing a ketogenic low carb lifestyle throughout my entire pregnancy. And you'll actually see, if you guys follow me, I'm going to be following the entire trajectory, showing what I eat, showing how I feel and the symptoms. And I am working with a naturopath as well, who's giving me the right supplements and everything.
Was there a concern? Did you think about it?
So I cut out intermittent fasting, which because I do want to feed my child every couple of hours. If it was just my body, I have no problem just running off the fuel in my stored body fat. But that's the only thing that I really changed. And I've reintroduced a couple of fruit, what we were talking about. So I'm living more of a low carb, high fat lifestyle versus always being ketosis. I'm not as concerned. I don't track that right now, but I am going off how I'm feeling. And it's going to be a really interesting process. I'm actually extremely excited that this is a new chapter because I can reach other people, like even breastfeeding moms and that are so scared about what they're doing. But if it's good for your body and babies are born in ketosis, why can't this be good for the development of the baby? A lot of people say the brains need carbs, but it's not necessarily true. I've done a lot of research, and your body will produce enough glucose to fuel the development of the baby.
And isn't it the healthy fats that...
the omega-3s, you know, like the cooked salmons, the nuts, the avocado, everything I'm eating is recommended for any sort of lifestyle. It's just I'm cutting out the carbs. And I don't know. I think it's going to be really exciting to follow this journey.
I think for a lot of people, they're excited about that. I mean, that you've just been able to announce this, but that there's precedent, like that you'll be monitoring and seeing how everything is going.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Is it weird to say it out loud?
It's so strange because I just announced it. So it's really, really great. But yeah, for any like new moms out there, if you have questions, let me know. Or if you just found out you're pregnant, don't be nervous. We can do this.
There's so many ways that we think and how our mindset kind of shifts a little bit too, right? You kind of you go, oh my God, there's two.
Yeah.
You know, and then and I'd be interested. I'm interested to see what happens with your body too.
Yes.
And I've often said this, like I was fit, I ate healthy, but like I gained 55 pounds with both my pregnancies.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm normal size, but that was a lot of weight to carry. And I ate healthy and I exercised every day. And then I had a girlfriend who ate McDonald's every day and sat on her ass all day and gained 16 pounds, you know?
Right.
It's like, it's going to be whatever your body is going to need to do.
For sure. And honestly, I'm not too concerned about gaining the weight. I know it still is in my mind because I'm coming from that fitness background too, that I don't want to gain too much, but I'm listening to my body. So I actually have eaten a lot more. A lot of people have aversions. I'm like, I love food. So I'm still eating a lot. I've already gained a little bit of weight and I'm not really worried about it. If my body is telling me that, then it's more about what the baby needs at this point. So I'm just going to kind of roll with it, I think.
So right now, the business, the Keto Goddess, it's really taken off.
Yeah,
like
it's been
you
great.
I'm just looking at it now, like, because you've got a business, you know, you're going to be a new mom, and you're in a business that seems to be kind of just gaining momentum. How much of it has been in the information that you're doing? I know you're doing the coaching. You have the Prove It. We were talking about some of the products that are associated.
Right.
Do people need to have the supplements, or is it?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. So just what the products actually are and why I will continue to take them even in my pregnancy is that the main ingredient, first of all, these were created, the formula, by, remember the podcast I said I listened to? This doctor, Dominic D'Agostino. He's the formulator behind this pure therapeutic ketone. It's made up from that blood ketone molecule. There's no artificial flavors, colorings, additives. It puts you into a state of ketosis in 30 minutes and everything is completely natural. So it helps to support your body to stay in that prime amplified state. I think fitness and nutrition are paramount to your health, but this can be an elixir, an added component so that you're consistently not going in and out of ketosis, that you don't have those crashes midday. They literally are changing the formulas all the time. The ketones are naturally it's a natural fermentation process. It's the only one in the world that's patented. So I'm taking a caffeine-free version as I'm pregnant because caffeine, I don't want to have too much of it. But I do it every single day and I won't stop the entire pregnancy because it's water soluble. Whatever my body and my baby doesn't use for energy, I pee out. So it's really, really natural. I would never take anything or promote anything that I don't take daily. And I've done so much research on it that it's been like, people probably won't get me to stop talking about it.
Okay, well, that's good. So I just really quickly, because I'm
Yes.
looking at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, top 3 podcasts that you would say for people to listen to, also for the information. So that first one was the one with Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, that's the first, like, just as a standalone. I would.
And who was that with? So it was
Tim Ferriss and Dr. Dominic D'Agostino.
Okay.
Dr. Dom, if you look him up, you'll find
so that
him.
would be that first one, because I think this is going to pique interest, but there's so much information that just like you took in 50 hours of it, right?
Absolutely.
You can't do this in an hour.
So for keto for women, because I think we're talking to a lot of women, Leanne Vogel, she wrote the Keto Diet and she is a nutritionist and she's from Calgary and she's great. And so she talks about like hormones and everything. So Leanne Vogel is a great podcast as well. There's a plethora of other ones, but I love intermittent fasting information. So Dr. Jason Fung, he's actually from Toronto, another great Canadian who's talking about keto, and it's all about the implications of intermittent fasting with or without keto and how it can reverse markers.
What about, top 3 recipes, like places to go for the recipes? Can people go on your website? Like, what are the top 5 looked at recipes?
Oh, it's awesome. Okay, so I'm doing these like upcoming workshops, and they're all talking about keto classics. So people want to know, how do I make pizza keto? How do I make lasagna keto? So I post recipes consistently on my social media networks. So Instagram, Facebook, those are the best ones to find it. I have a blog too, but there are some really good ones out there. I'd say Diet Doctor is a really good one. I hate the name of it, but it has a lot of low carb keto recipes and like they're really easy to access. Maria Emmerich has written a ton of books, but she also has an online resource with it. And then I'd say All Day I Dream About what is it? All Day I Dream About Food. It's a funny website, but again, a ton of really good resources. So there's so many out there. I would say literally Google keto and then whatever food you're feeling like. Like I wanted mac and cheese the other day, so I was like keto mac and cheese, and I found a recipe that was good, right? So there's so many resources.
What are you using then? Like for noodles, like in
cauliflower, new pasta. There's actually a lot of things that are like, it's from shirataki noodles, so high fiber, low carb. There's so many new things coming out. So I know it sounds crazy.
No, but but the new products on the market are making it a lot easier.
So much easier.
So much easier to be able to do. Top 3 things right off the bat that you want people to pull from their diet, and the top 3 things you want people to add.
Ooh, love it. Okay, so pull all of your processed sugars. Go in there, get rid of your cookies and things that like have sugar, cereal, stuff like that. Then go into your fridge and take out, like, if you do have any breads or anything like that, like muffins and stuff, just pull those out. I know it sounds so bad. Just try it. And then the low fat products. So get rid of anything that says low fat on it whatsoever. Okay.
Like low fat sour cream.
Oh no, don't do it.
No, like
it's just sugar. It's just sugar. And then increase. So here's whole foods. Go with whole foods. So if you don't want to do just yet the healthy cuts of the fattier cuts of meat, then get coconut oil or MCT oil, okay? Get yourself some nuts if you love nuts. Get more avocado in there. If you don't know how to eat avocado, try it guacamole style or whatever. So I would say I know you said, what would you include? Full fats, vegetables, but low glycemic vegetables, a lot of them. So leafy greens, cruciferous greens, and then just more like nuts and avocados and stuff like that. Hopefully that's helpful.
Well, it covers a big, covers a large spectrum.
It's a lot.
We had bacon with everything.
Bacon's so good.
We had bacon wrapped things and bacon on bacon. I'm like, I can't believe how much bacon I'm having. It's great.
Actually,
great for a Jewish girl, let me tell you.
That's so true. Last thing, eggs. I'd say if any of the proteins, eggs have all 9 essential amino acids. So egg yolks are actually really good for keto. So if you're not sure where to get your fats, get some eggs.
So like bacon and egg breakfast.
But the best. And
Like,
a slice of avocado, and then you're good.
Okay. So I always do the bacon and eggs. I don't need the toast.
Yeah.
So add my avocado to it, and then I'm all good.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, I'm winning half the battle.
I love it. That's so good.
We're getting half the battle. Where can people go for information on maybe the products, on the program, on anything? Where can they go check you out?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the products really quick. So the easiest is ketogoddess.ca. Okay?
See, I told you she was a goddess. Yeah.
ketogoddess.ca. You can watch a little video to learn about it. Then you can reach out to me. I can get you a 5-day experience pack, which is a trial pack just to see if you like it. You don't have to commit to anything. Go from there. Then in terms of coaching, it's Keto Life Gains, which I know sounds complicated, but it's not. Gains being GAINS. Think of like physical gains. KetoLifeGains.com or GoddessGains.com. They both redirect. Okay, so that's either my training or my coaching site. And all of those same handles can be used on Instagram and Facebook. Just look up Keto Goddess. All of my links are there.
It's all there.
Yeah.
And you're good for people to then, you're going to be inundated with kind of questions and stuff, but that's
Great.
good. That's what you like.
It's my day-to-day. It's my life.
Yeah.
I love
it's
it.
amazing. Do you think this is here to stay? Like this?
People ask me that all the time.
Yeah.
Are you going to stick with it? The answer is yes for me. Right now it's in this like fad phase. Now, of course it'll die down a little bit, but it's not going to go anywhere because people are getting real tangible results. So I'm just going to keep having my conversation. If I have to expand my conversation to different things, I will do it. But right now this is the hot topic and I'm going to stick with it for sure.
Well, I think it's just gaining. Everyone seems to be talking about it. I'm like at the gym the other day and I could hear people talking like, like people, it's just in conversations, right? And so hopefully we've been able to arm you with some of the information that you need and to understand a little bit more when you hear people talking about the ketogenic diet and the ketones, that this is really what you were talking about. But I think for me, the fascinating part was just the blood and when it's in the different states, right? The ones that are going through to the brain.
Yeah, blood-brain barrier.
The blood-brain barrier, and that some never get there, and it's really quite fascinating. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the pregnancy. You'll have to keep us updated on how things are going. And once again, for this podcast, I'm like here telling you to go listen to other ones on the topic, but really appreciate you listening to this one. Please like and subscribe and share and let other people know about it. It's always great to be able to see the podcast going. And what I love is that everyone is listening. Like any given day, people are listening to every single one of the podcasts on Living Your Life. And I think I truly want to say thank you that you're such an engaged audience and are finding something that is piquing your interest each and every day. Have a great day. That's the wrap on Living Your Life with Leanne Lang.
That's awesome.